Alright guys, what else is there to say about Singapore? I mean, this is, in my opinion, the toughest track in the game, and I would rank it as tougher than Monaco to find a rhythm. It is easier to pass here, but the rhythm and timing of your driving is actually harder. There are corners that require an early turn, then there's corners that require late turn, there's corners that require hard braking, and here there's actually corners that require, like, if I was going to say you can brake, up to a 10, so a 5 pedal or a 10 pedal, something like that. There's actually a couple of corners here that involve like an 8 pedal. One of them is actually coming up, this next left-hander. It's actually one of these corners that rewards a light brake. Notice I was not full braking there. Even in the rain, I mean, even dry, I would be a little bit less brake there. There's also very strange rhythms to me here. They're just really hard to get down. But hey, we're going to get through it. I'll try to give you a quick rundown on a daytime lap in time trial mode where it's a little bit easier to see things. And then we'll do a turn by turn, but it's going to be a long one, guys. It's a long lap, but stick with me, and I can help you get around this place. All right, here we go. We're going to need to move 2 tires over onto the yellow. We're going to brake at about 80. Hard brake, cut early to get over that curb, over this curb, sharp brake, turn hard left. We're going to track out, get back to throttle. Up ahead's one of them spots where we're going to use a lighter brake at first, especially. You see, I didn't quite go full braking. What I would encourage you to do in that last corner is it's faster than you think, and work on braking lighter and lighter until you can carry a lot of corner speed, then move to braking later. All right, so coming up 100 and a cut in the wall, we brake there, get into the curb, track 2 over, go to the next caution light, brake, 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 turn sharp. Your next goal is to get under that black P0 sign, light brake again. Well, not necessarily a light brake, but about an 8 brake, I would say, 8 out of 10. All right, now coming up to the next spot, it's going to be another 8 brake at about 80. Get in night, let the car carry out under the board. Definitely car placement is critical through here, all over the curbs, left side of the bridge to make a nice straight brake zone. Get out to the right here. It's very hard to get to the right. Coming off that bridge, you're going to have to work at that. So now we're going to look for an access road, a game sign, and a 100 board, and we're going to brake about where they all converge there. Now you want to stay left along that verge line. Working around about halfway around the corner, brake, brake, turn sharp over the curb. Hook the inside of that curb, let the car go wide. We're going to brake just before the caution box. We want to eat up a lot of this curb on the left, let the car go out. Just a nice rhythm. Maintain speed. It's very hard to get to full throttle. Turn sharp over the curb, over the curb. Get back to the throttle. We're going to need a nice brush and bend up ahead. Brush just past the caution light. And there we go. That's a lap at Singapore. Now let's do the turn by turn.
All right, let's go turn by turn at Singapore. This will be a long one. So you want to get 2 tires over the line, and remember, all you need is 2 tires within the verge lines, and I would even encourage you to try to challenge that and try to put your left side tires maybe even a little further over than I've got them. My braking marker is at about, I would say, I use my depth perception to go to about the 80, so you will want to make sure you catch the 100 and this caution box. And somewhere around 75 to 85 ahead, you're going to use a lot of brakes. You're going to start your turn in just before this curb. Like if you hit that curb, you might be a little late. I use a light, long steering angle, and my goal is to put 2 tires over that curb, almost 4, as much as track limits will give me. This is a shot from time trial mode where, believe it or not, that's technically probably a track limits violation, but this is time trial mode, which is, it seems like even the more strict and strict mode in career mode, and it let me have this. So you really want to push the limits here. And your aim once you get to this point is to try to hook 2 over the right-hand curb up here. And depending on how fast you are, sometimes it'll let you get away with being over the limits. It's like the game kind of senses if you gained an advantage by going over or not. So you want to make sure you hook 2 tires over the curb and maybe even bring your left sides in a little bit. And I would aim to put the car about where that little arrow is. And once you can get a nice straight line for it, you want to straighten the wheel and hit the brakes even while you're on this curb because you're going pretty fast. And if you look at this on the map, which the word's kind of covering up, we're about to take a very sharp left-hander. It's even okay to put 2 over that curb if you want to, but it seems like for me, I always end up a little bit hot and don't quite make it. It doesn't seem to really hurt me lap time-wise, so I don't really worry about it. You do need to make sure that you get back to the throttle and let 2 tires go over this line. And what's hard to see due to my word placement is that you want to kind of keep the car wide around this corner until you're in about 4th gear to make sure that you don't break traction. If you try to pull it in like towards this wall and get to the left too quick, you're going to limit your ability to get back to throttle. Now here is a corner that I'm going to encourage you to brake lightly for. And as you build up speed, you'll start being able to carry a lot more speed through here, and then you'll be able to like move your brake zone up. And if I was like sitting in your car instructing you on a real track here in the southeastern United States, that's the kind of strategy I would encourage you to use there. I have to use that same strategy here at Singapore myself. Your index points are going to be the caution box and the curbs. And I'm going to brake just a little bit before that, but I'm going to be very conscious of my foot to brake a little lighter than I think I need to. Even though this is a sharp turn, it's a very fast turn. And if you notice here, I've got a lot of brake in, and honestly, that's probably a little bit too much. And this is just after the curbs. And notice I've got 2 over. They will call track limits if you get over this. They are pretty picky about that. And like I said, just keep braking lighter and lighter until, honestly, you hit the wall on the outside, and then use a replay to back up and go and then figure it out from there. You can put 2 over this curb, but due to the understeering nature of my setup at this track, I kind of aim to go over that curb, and then the car usually misses it. And you're going to hear me say that a lot as we go on. You want to keep adding steering input until you get to the curb. And then once you get to the curb, you may have to hold that steering input just a moment longer, open the wheel up, and let the car go 2 over these curbs, and then get nice and straight. I always run ERS down this straightaway. If you got DRS, you're going to be using that. And take a breath. This is a long straightaway. The next turn is just a little bend in the road. Don't worry too much about it. There is a 150 before this. You do want to be on the right-hand side. Your index points, there's 3 of them. There's this caution box, which you'll probably see first. There's a 100 sign, which is, basically because there's a 150 before it, that's how you know it's coming. You can't really see it until you're on it. But there's also like a little cutout opening in the wall right there. And somewhere along there is where you're going to brake. So use all 3 of those to know when you're going to brake. As you come to the right-hand curb, which, by the way, you can even put 2 tires on it if you're veering, and I put the wording in a very bad spot. The curb's right between as and you, and you'll start turning into it. You turn a little earlier than you think you need to here. You can hook 2 tires over this curb again if you want. I'm usually pushing entry speed that it turns it into a challenge. That may not be the best option. Admittedly, this isn't my best track. I don't seem to find too much benefit in going over, but it just seems to kind of work out about the same. What you do need to do is, as you come out of this turn, you do need to put 2 over this curb. Sometimes on regular stringency, you might be able to get away with a lot of track exit, but honestly, I've started to find it's not really worth it, because you already, once you get to here, you need to be looking at your next point, which is that caution light. You want to get straight as that wall straightens up, and you want to be parallel with it and tight to it. But it is important, again, 2 over this curb and get back to the throttle. Here we are at the caution light. There's a 50 hiding behind it. And this turn is, to me, it's slower than it seemed at first. I was really bad about hustling a car around it and just bashing a wing into the wall as I came off of this turn. Just as the yellow advertisement ends, I start turning, but this is really more of a rhythm thing. And notice this is a lot of braking. I am into the ABS and everything right here. You turn very sharp. Look, you see my left hand. I am well beyond that 45-degree turn, I guess you would say, or 90-degree turn rather. I'm into like 120-degree turning around this. There's a little light here that maybe you'd be able to use. That once you get to it, you should be straight. You want to put 2 tires over that white line. And up ahead, there's a black P0 sign right there. And you're going to be traction limited, because when you have wheel input in the car and you're trying to add throttle, that's a really good way to spin the car out. And you're going to be very traction limited, but you want to try to get the car under that sign, and somewhere between that sign and that next caution light right there above, almost the dot on the I, honestly. That's where your next brake zone is going to be. And there's actually a bit of an opening in the wall as we get there. The caution light, it looks like, is right above us. I think right there. And this is also another spot where we had a right-hander earlier, turn 3, I think it's numbered, or maybe 4, that I said work on braking lighter. And this is another one of them zones. Notice that nowhere on here was I full braking. I just brake lighter, and this is very hard to do here. Your instinct is like you feel like you're about to die and you scrub a lot of speed and you don't. Lighter braking, and notice how early I'm actually off the brake. I'm going to aim to put 2 on or even a little over the curbs. Getting that almost 4 over doesn't seem to be beneficial. And then right as you come off those or get to those curbs, you want to start looking for this little Rolex advertisement that hangs over the track and aim to put your car under it. I will engage ERS again down this straightaway most likely. Now this is some of the hardest signboards to see on the track is in this next sector. There is a 150 and a 100, and you're going to brake at about 85 or so. Now, another thing to watch out for is that you're not hugging the wall too tight. This is honestly flirting with danger where I've got the car placed, because look at the wall. The wall comes to the verge line, and if you had your tire on the verge line or even a little over, this little wall will just pop your front wing, knock you inside, break your car, throw off your corner entry. It will really hurt you. Now, you're going to use a lot of brake for just a moment, and then very quickly after you engage a lot of brakes, you're going to ease off the brake really quick and turn in a little earlier than you think. Now, a lot of times in these things, I say turn at or around these curbs, and here I'm going to say, no, you need to turn earlier. I ran this corner wrong for a long time because I approached it like a late apex curb, but then look at the track map down here. It actually goes out quite a bit, and we want to take advantage of that. So I actually found a track map that I printed for this that actually calls this corner the Singapore Sling. And that is a very good way to put it, honestly. You want to just sling the car through this corner faster than you think you can. So you're going to turn, try to get on that curb, and you're going to try to let the car go out a bit wide from this point out. And you don't want to open up the steering to go wide. You honestly want to keep your steering at a pretty similar angle. You want to go over this curb so fast that the car has no choice but to go out wide here. And I could actually be a little wider. And I had a hard time trying to capture a good shot that showed where to be and where to look, but there's a signboard right there that'll be your next braking zone is right about time you get under that. And you could be wider, and you may even momentarily be able to get to wide open throttle and then do a quick brake zone right as you try to bring the car back to track left under that sign. So here we are. This is underneath that sign that was in the last shot. And notice I've still got the wheel cranked a little bit left. And notice the track actually goes left. But there is no reason whatsoever, even if you're trying to pass somebody, there is no reason whatsoever that you should be offline in this situation. If you do, you're going to be slow. This is not a passing zone. All right. So you want to kind of hold the car left for just an ever so slight moment as you come under that bridge. And then you make a cut right over this curb. And you'll notice if you don't hold that track left for a moment like you're supposed to, you're going to end up turning and busting track limits and going out over here somewhere. You do want to come very close to braking track limits. Notice my tire is just barely going to stay within the white verge lines of the track. There's a curb ahead on the left, and I'd really rather be a little more left than that, but that's kind of risking the car. You kind of want to hook 2 tires inside this curb and sling it up onto the bridge. Car placement, again, here, very important. You don't really need to go much wider than here. And what's really tempting to do, and it's wrong, is to straighten the wheel and kind of go straight over the bridge. But there's actually a right turn as you go over this bridge. And really, it's very important that you get the car kind of underneath this Aramco sign and get it back to the left, the green Aramco sign, that is. You want to get the car here. And the reason is, as we can see at this point, right after we come over the bridge, we're going to need to get the car right. And you can also start indexing your braking. There are signs in the bridge and everything for where to brake, but I use that post at the end of this bridge as my braking zone. Here we are coming to it again. You can see here's where I'm coming off the gas and onto the brake. I'm a left foot braker. And notice that the track keeps on going right. I've said that a few times, but I cannot emphasize enough. I ran this track wrong for so long, but I ended up running the wrong trajectory. You want the car on a trajectory going this way. You don't want to be over here running a trajectory that way. That's really going to pinch you off in this next corner. So you want to start from as far over as you can. You may even have to hold a little bit of a track right as you go over the bridge to do that. And it's a very sharp turn. And this is a little bit like Monaco, where you have to be careful that you actually don't get too tight, because the rear tire will pop that inside wall and pop the car around. This is pretty close. You could get a little closer, but this is about as close. I mean, if you're right here, you're doing fine. You want to bring the car out to the exit of the track. You want to put 2 tires over. It seems like if you hit the wall, it also insults you by giving you a track limits violation in addition to the damage to your car. And you want to aim straight down the wall that the words are covering up until you get to about 4th, maybe 5th gear, and then bring the car over. If you're in a traction limited situation, maybe you're on hard tires or something like that, or your tires are worn, don't open that DRS too quick because you're going to lose traction. Now, going into this next turn, it's very easy to lose your references. Now, there's a 150 sign we've already passed. There's a 100 sign. There's an F1 2020 game sign up inside the I don't know, protection catch fence there. And there's an access road that comes into your track. And the first reference I look for is actually the access road. That's the bigger one. If you drive beyond where you can see this sign, you're going to be too deep into this corner. So I'm going to brake momentarily after this screenshot. I'm going to brake at about the 100 and about level with that sign. And I honestly use all of this because if all you're looking for is that 100 sign, I'm sorry, but you're going to miss it. You start your turning right as the curb ends if you're not too hot into this corner. This curb will kind of jack up the balance on your car. It'll try to throw you into this tire barrier or even that Singapore wall, so watch out for that. It's a tall curb. Watch out for it, but it's really good to hug the curb as you go around. Now, coming off that corner, you do need to be mindful of track limits. It's actually okay to be further left than I am, but this white line is not a street line. That is the verge line of the track. And if you go over that, they will call a track limits violation on you on strict mode as I'm running it now. What you could do is aim to put your right side tires just to the right of that line right there and draw a straight line out here. And that's really what you want to do. This is, so I'm 3rd gear, but I'm nearly full throttle. You just want a nice straight trajectory down this little straightaway. It's not necessary to get all the way to the track right. And this is one of the harder braking zones in the track to get perfect. There's a few things to look for. There's a 100 sign, but the problem is because you're going around to the left, there's no 50 sign. And there's also not much out here in terms of distance markers to index off of either. So you're going to have to learn how to feel when you're about half, maybe 2/3 of the way around this little slight left-hand bend. You might also be able to index off of and kind of feel timing off this black and white. And this will be one of them spots where as you go into the curve corner, you count to 1, or maybe this is about the image you're looking for when you go for your brakes, but you're going to have to really come up with like a depth perception or like an image in your mind that you are looking for. And once you go to the brakes, as soon as the car is back on this little straight piece of land, that corner's closer than it looks. And you're going to start a right very soon afterwards. It's actually okay. My car understeers, so what I do is kind of aim to get on these curbs, and then I usually don't make it. And the car just kind of plows beyond me. But what you do want to do is get 2 tires on or kissing that curb at least, if not a little over that curb. The next thing is, and I would say this is one of those essential key points to nail on this track, is to hook 2 left side tires over this curb and hold them there all the way around that corner. And as soon as the corner ends, you should be getting back to the throttle, and the car is going to kind of jump over the curbs when it needs to anyway and end up out here. You do want to watch out back here, though, that you don't bash your wing into that wall as it comes back in, though. There is a 100 sign. There is then a caution box, the light box there, and a 50 hiding behind it. Somebody needs to be shot for their placement of those things. The caution boxes are fine. Just these index markers. Move it down the fence a little bit. Jeez. If you're braking at that curb, you're too late. You need to be braking just before this box right here, honestly. And you turn, I would say this is one of those critical points. And it's very rare that I tell you to drive over a sharp curb like this and keep a lot of wheel input in the car at the same time, but it's necessary going over here. You want to get close to this wall, 2 over the curb, but you want to keep the wheel input in the car, and you'll just have to work on slowing down enough to make sure the car doesn't pop in and go straight into that wall. You want to end up about right here, and this is just a rhythm. It's very, very hard. I mean, maybe you could index off these rafters and the bridge above you or something. But for me, it's just kind of like once the car maxes out 3rd gear, it's going to be about here, and then I'm going to brake and twist it into the next right-hander really quick. I'm going to get to the left, and you see I'm going to be about right here. I'm going to aim for those curbs. I'm not quite going to get 2 on them in this particular video shot, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily essential to get 2 on the curb, but you need to be close to that curb. And then we're going to go into a spot where, thanks to DHL and their advertising, the whole world looks the same once we get on this next chute. I mean, look at this. DHL on the right, DHL on the left. The only marker in the world that really looks different is, one, if you can use your depth perception to index how quickly the corner is coming. 2 is, can you use that caution box right there? I'm going to brake just before that caution box goes out of my right-hand view to go into this next turn. And then I'm going to turn sharp. Notice, look at how sharply I turn. I mean, I am going to turn sharp and try to put 2 over these curbs. At least 2 on the curb. If I'm going fast enough, the car is naturally going to go over the curb and then come out to the left and be right here. And you don't want to drive on this curb. These little things, they look intimidating, but as long as you're not wide open throttle, you should be okay. What I find is that if I have 2 tires to the left of this curb, I'm fine. And if I got 2 tires on that white line around, I'm fine. But if you're driving on top of this curb, it seems to mess you up. Be patient with the throttle all the way around this corner. Watch out for the wall, that it doesn't like come in and bite you when you use it to track out. And now notice already the caution box ahead, and it's very hard to see in this picture. There is a 150, a 100, and a 50. And you're going to drive very, very deep into this corner. You will need either a very sharp turn, maybe even a light tap of the brake. So right after I pass this caution box, I'm going to lightly tap the brake, and I want to do the brake tap early. It is possible to sling the car into the corner and then tap the brake mid-corner, and what that's going to do is ruin your straight line speed down the front straightaway. I say do the light braking back here as you're going into the turn. And it's not going to be much, just a light brush or maybe a really heavy, quick punch to brake, or maybe just a light, slow drag at a brake. But you need to do something to get just enough speed off that you don't violate track limits. You can just about put 4 tires on this curb, and that's what you want to aim to do. But remember, if 4 tires are on the curb, it's going to get you. So this is very close to a track limits violation, and this is where I aim to put the car every lap. Notice my wheel input. I'm going to keep a very similar level of input. Notice I haven't taken much wheel out. The car has gone out to the curb on the right, and I'm going to keep this. It's very, very tempting to me to try to straighten the wheel out, but the problem is, as you crest this hill, the car is going to want to wash to the right. So it's very, very critical that you keep the car turning left until it's on the straightaway and then straighten up real quick. This curving, if you need it, is friendly, but the problem is on strict limits, if you go over it, there is someone very feisty about giving you a penalty. So there we go, guys. We made it. That is a lap of Singapore. Remember, I was not well liked as a child, so please leave me a like now to help me feel better about myself and my self-confidence. Thank you for watching.